Alright guys, welcome back for another video. In today's video I want to cover the topic of Bitcoin seasonal tendencies. In order to do that, we need to look at the Bitcoin USD chart on the 3-month. The 3-month is the quarterly chart. You have Q1, which is your yearly open, Q2, which is your April 1st open, represents the end of tax season. Then you have your summer Q3 open in July, your autumn Q4 open in October that runs through to the end of the year, and then you have your next yearly open or Q1 open in the start of the year. In my opinion, the yearly open and the Q2 open, which is the April 1st open, representing the end of tax season, in my opinion, those are the two most important quarterly opens, but they're all very significant, and I want to run through each of them today. But when you look at the Bitcoin chart like this, it gives you a much better framework for establishing an accumulation position or distributing on spot. And it kind of, the point I'm trying to illustrate here is that these quarterly opens are going to serve as pivots in the market, at the very least, right? A slow of momentum. So even if you have a large downtrend, like right here, you have your down close candle here, and then a quarterly pivot, right? So this is a up close candle within a downtrend, but it's still a pivot. Then you have the same type of deal here. You have your quarterly down close after the big parabolic blow off, and then that's pretty much the low for a couple months or better part of a year until it continues down. Same thing we got over here, right? We got this quarterly close down, pivot, sell off. And that's a little bit different than trending behavior, because trending behavior, you can have all different sorts of daily trends within these quarterly opens. But I just want to go to the weekly chart on Bitcoin and show some of the seasonal tendencies that I've been noticing. Let's see. Here we go. So I marked off every quarterly open here. And one thing I want to draw your attention to is the current price action. So we've just opened a quarterly candle on Bitcoin. So we're in the beginning of Q3, and I just want to draw your attention here. So we had this quarterly open of Q2, and that eclipsed our entire sell-off to all the way down to the start of the new quarter. And the quarterly opens generally do serve or have historically served as pivots. So it wouldn't be that surprising if we saw, this quarter trade contrary to the previous quarter, and this, to price bottom out here. Again, it doesn't, whether you're bearish or bullish, it doesn't really change anything, in my opinion. I mean, it doesn't give you any interpretation of the idea that price would create a higher high or create a lower high. It doesn't tell you that, but what it just tells you is that, if you get a quarterly open in an area where price has shown a willingness to act as support, then you probably do see a change in behavior around that level, and then the quarterly open does serve as a pivot. And it's a little bit interesting. So this is the Q3 open right there, which is July. And historically, going back in Bitcoin's chart, I looked at different price action in July, and it was very interesting to see that the end of July typically marked some type of rally. So if we go back here to 2021, you can see here that you had this big, multi-month accumulation in the summer of last year, and then you have your Q3 open, price runs down a little bit, but then at the end of July 19th, you get your official bottom, and then price runs up to put in this pretty sustained rally up to the all-time high. Now, if we go back to the year before that, in July, you have the same thing here, right? So Q3 opens, and July puts in a rally, comes down, sells off into a 618 retracement, and then you get a continuation of the rally. But really, what we're looking at here is you get the Q3 open, and then you get a rally off the Q3 open. Even here, to a very slight extent, right? You get your you know, well, this one I don't know if you could describe it as that, but in July you get towards the end of July, right? Wait, here we go. Yeah, so you got July 3rd, 23rd, so the end of July, price runs up for a little bit of a rally before coming back into the consolidation, then breaking down. But the point is that you see these late July rallies all the time in Bitcoin. Uh, Same thing right here, right? So you get your Q3 open, and then late July, July 18th, July 23rd, all the way into August, and then you get that late July rally. Of course, I'm sure if you go back here to this, yeah. So here, again, you get July, and then you get a sell off in early July, and then you get a rally into late July. Now let's see if we keep going back, if we still see that tendency here as well. So here, actually, you didn't. This is the first time you didn't see that tendency, right? Price actually sold off towards the end of July. But it was an interesting observation. I think, it it's just the one of those seasonal tendencies in the market where the market does tend to provide relief rallies in the summer for whatever reason. That's just the way Bitcoin has historically operated. In my opinion, my belief for why that is, and it ties into why I think the yearly open and the Q2 open, or April 1st, which represents the end of tax season. I think those two represent the biggest profit taking times in the market. So a lot of times, if you have these institutional players coming in, they're going to take profit around the yearly close, right, to mark their profits for the year and to solidify them on the books. And then also, towards the end of Q1, around that April 1st timeframe, because of for tax reasons, of course. So you get most of your profit taking around those two levels. So it does kind of make sense that you might get a little bit of a relief rally in the summer because a lot of the intention for these institutional clients to sell has occurred in the previous 2 quarters. So therefore, sell pressure is relieved, and you get the opposite of that, of course. Maybe a little bit of a relief rally, maybe more sustained, but the point is selling pressure is removed from the market, and I think that accounts for some of your tendency to see a relief rally in the summer. Whether that's just a relief rally or a sustained bull market, that's hard to predict, but just something to keep in mind. Also, yeah, so you can all of these different quarterly opens. You can see here, if we just go down to a daily chart, I just want to illustrate how maybe put some EMA crosses here, just to show how you the quarterly opens generally represent a change in trend. So right here I have the EMA 21 and EMA 34 cross, and those just the reason I choose those is because they're Fibonacci numbers. I use the 618 retracement a lot, but I also choose Fibonacci numbers for my EMA crosses. And anytime you see a cross, it's just telling you that the order flow is changing. You might want to keep that in mind. But how that ties into the quarterly pivots is you get this, you have an uptrend here, right? A textbook uptrend. You have higher lows, higher highs, and prices creating an uptrend. Then you get your quarterly open, your quarterly pivot, and price comes down. The EMAs cross, and you obviously get a trend that is different than it was prior to the quarterly open, right? So uptrend, quarterly open, downtrend. You see where I'm going with this. And if we go here as well, now this one didn't necessarily serve as a pivot, and oftentimes you'll see this as well. But so you get a little bit of a drive down, but then a sustained or consolidation right there. So while it wasn't a direct pivot, it did represent, you're sort of getting to the end of this trend, right? The bulk of the move had already occurred, really, from the peak, and momentum slowing down. Here's another good example of a quarterly pivot, right? So this is again, it's not perfect because I put these in on a weekly chart, but it would be October 1st. Yeah, so you get your October 1st open right here, and then you get so going into the quarterly open, price was in a downtrend, you know, objectively a daily downtrend. You get your cross on the EMA. Maybe you see this cross on the EMA and you think, well, okay, so I'm gonna, order flow is shifting, but wait a second, price is very close to the quarterly open. Maybe I don't want to trade the trend right around the quarterly open because it just doesn't hold a lot of significance, right? It could, even though the trend is objectively one direction, it can pivot right there, and that's exactly what we see. You see the trend pivot, and you get your quarterly open and then an uptrend. Now, if we go